Welcome to this week's Bunkai Strategies. So this week's technique of the week comes from Sensei Ross Chesterton, who wanted to ask us about which one?
It's the move in Meikyo where you move from the gyuki and bag stance followed by a jump where you turn, bring your arms together and landing shoot back.
So the point about this one is there's all sorts of confusions. Number one, why you would turn and make gyuki. We're not going to be doing something here and have someone come in from behind and turn and miraculously block. Instead, you've got to look at what's happening with someone in front of you. And we've been battling here, and in order to finish the situation, I'm going to reach up and take this through. And so we get this full presentation of the body, so the turn does part of the work for us. But more importantly, people are worried about the jump. Well, actually, it was a judo instructor who said to me, instead of trying to pick people up and throw them, just feel like you're going to drop your body. And people have real trouble with dropping their body weight. They sort of just bend their knees. But in fact, if all you do is think about jumping, people come down. Right? So if you feel like you're about to lift your feet off the floor, people tend to come with you. Now what we're doing in this situation is a very complex kind of turn, where having already made some contact, we then take our feet off the floor and turn our body. And as we're doing that, we get a further strike here and keep it here. And the reason you keep it is because if I hit there, the head moves away. So if I keep it in one place, then this strike stays in the target. So we get our effect on the body itself. And what's really happening with the jump is that you're dropping your body weight, and so as you go here, and I can't do the strike and the drop at the same time because I'm going to be left holding a head that's connecting the spine to not very much. So we're going to go from here, imagine that this is striking at the same time, and we just get a big turn, and we bring that down. The kata does include that after this, as you land, you might want to spin these hands through here. And I don't think it takes very much to work out that if you've got a head in here, then when you spin these hands, nasty things happen. So, is this one to teach the children? No, but neither is Meikyo kata, really. I mean, if you're learning that, you've probably been in your black belt for a good long time. So, you know, the principle that you can teach children is the idea that jumping isn't all about someone trying to sweep your legs with a bow staff, but instead is a principle of how to energetically take your body weight and use it, much the same as an exaggerated stance. It's pushing a lot of energy into a target, not to make contact at this distance, but to drive through at this distance. And so the same thing with the jump. We have the energy of a jump that's transferred to the body that we've got in front of us. Principle, technique, all in one go? Very nearly. And for our principle of the week this week, we're actually taking a slight divergence by not linking it directly to the application that we were talking about, but instead, I've got Sensei Claire Potter with me, who's filling in for one of my American subscribers, who asked the question about how things change for a woman to be dealing with a big lad. Now, the issue is, of course, that if you come to rely on strength, you don't really stand much of a chance, because the big guy is going to be stronger. However, if you rely on technique, then technique does the work. So when I demonstrate this, you know, it's going to look like a big lad doing the work. But when you see someone as petite as our Sensei Claire doing it, then you have a slightly different take on the situation. Let's start with something simple. If a big lad grabs your wrist and you try and use your shoulder, you're not going to have a lot of luck. You're instead going to run into all sorts of problems. But if instead all you get is the technique going to work properly, then the transference of force up the body, the whiplash is still the same. Doesn't matter how big or how strong he is. glad and she's out of there anyway. So she's just training her technique to do the work. Now what about making an impact? Well, if you follow the rules, the things that we teach, if Sensei Claire starts hitting directly in, then she can land them and I can take them. And the second she follows the rule of thumb, which is to hit down on the front of the body, then the big lad gives in just the same as anyone else. So if, for instance, Sensei was being attacked and I had her in a headlock and I was about to do nasty things to her, all she's got to do is do one of the techniques that she knows. And it's the same for me as if I was demonstrating on anyone else. The essence of the lesson is to let the technique do the work and not let strength be your focus. That doesn't mean don't train to be strong, it just means when you're training, make sure that the technique is put in the right kind of context to make sure it can do the work for you. My question to you for this week has to do with the relative nature of an opponent and an attacker. So, for instance, we were talking about women and technique, and is the rule any different if you are a different size? Now, there are going to be some very definite answers in this one, so send them in. Let's hear what you've got to say. If you were a child, would you do exactly the same things as an adult's done, overlooking the rights and wrongs of whether you should teach children neck breaks, but instead think about what they're capable of and what they're not capable of? Catch you next time.